concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. We are looking at one of my labs from yesterday. I actually am not sure if this was my fastest one. No, well, it certainly didn't end with my fastest one. But one of my attempts to go faster, that's for damn sure. Yeah. Yes. I put down my, you got to start slow, right? You got to start slow and get something on the board, and then try and get faster and faster and faster. So I put down my 22-ish second laps, and then I started trying to push and go faster. I got down below 1 minute. So down below 20 seconds a lap, which for me, I was pretty happy with. And I kept trying to go faster, and I kept crashing. So there you go. I'd never I think my best was like 58 seconds. I think it was 58 and change. 58 divided by 3 is about a 19-second lap. My goal was to go under a minute. I succeeded at that. Then my goal was to do even better. I failed at that. And I was like, I was feeling pretty good about myself. And then I looked at the leaderboard, and I was like 10th out of I was way down near the bottom of the leaderboard for the Knoxville, the local leaderboard. Obviously, I'm like in 300th position, globally. That's not the point. And I remember the days when we first started the Knoxville multi-rotor group, and we would race. We were doing racing, And it was frustrating because me and the other guy who founded the group were so much faster than everyone else in town. And it was really frustrating to be able to race because it was like us two versus nobody. We were like, well, don't worry. The level of talent in Knoxville, we'll get up there. We'll finally have a good racing scene here. And now we do, and I'm like the slowest guy in Knoxville. But I have more subscribers. I had a great time, that's for sure. I had a great time. Thank you so much to the folks here in Knoxville. Thanks to Kevin Turner, who did all the work setting up the track and running the timing system. Ian Bible, who ran the race and DJ'd and commentated, and of course a whole rest of the Knoxville FPV community for coming out. I can't decide. I feel like I really shouldn't be the slowest guy in Knoxville, but there's some real talent. There's some real damn talent here. I mean, Evan Turner didn't even come out. Evan has already he's already like number 3 globally. And I believe he was practicing for a DRL event this weekend. So he's just done. Quad Doc he was putting in 16s, I think. He was going for 3 15s in a row. He's gotten really fast. I used to compete with him. He's gotten really fast. And Rab FPV was out there putting in 12s. It was frustrating because racing can be fun wherever you're at. Like, there's a perspective from which if you're not going to win the race, then you don't want to race. And if you have that perspective, then probably racing isn't for you because only one guy can win. But there's a perspective where racing is about, being faster than the guy who's just slightly faster than you, or beating your own time. And I went out there knowing from practice that if I ran a 22 to 25 second lap, there was like a 0% chance of me crashing. That's the speed where I'm just walking it in. And knowing that somewhere around 20 seconds, like in practice, I was putting in 20-second laps and crashing. And I thought, okay, so if I can do 3 20-second laps, if I can beat a minute, then I'll feel good about myself. And I did. And then instead of feeling good about myself, I immediately thought, okay, now I want to put in 3 18s. And then I just spent the whole rest of the day crashing. And so I don't know. I never actually got to feel good about putting in the 1 minute lap, the 20-second laps, because I immediately just reset the bar and wanted 19 or 18 and didn't succeed, and then felt bad at the end of the day. But I don't know, I guess that's just it. It's really frustrating to feel like you're hitting your head against a wall and just not able to get faster. But if I had to be fair, I could have practiced more. That's actually the answer, would be more practice and more stick time. So, given the amount of stick time I actually put in on the course, I was probably pretty respectable. But it was still, then I looked at the leaderboard, and it was just like, I was like, well, I'm probably not at the top of the leaderboard, but I didn't expect to be like, I would have been happy with like 6 out of 10, or maybe 7 out of 10, but I was like 10 out of 10, and I was like, geez. Okay. Anyway, there you go. Brought home both of my quads. Didn't hit myself. Had a good time. Welcome to the live stream, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Here's what's going on my big main screen. Magic FPV asking about showing the Flow State documentary. I don't know why James said to ask me. I have been telling people to ask James, and he is the one who is in charge of making sure that the film doesn't leak. So ultimately, when people have asked me, I have said, ask him. And I talked to him on the phone and said to him, ultimately it's your decision, James. So he is the one. Here's what's going on, you guys. This is a whole live stream. I I just look at your chats and answer your questions, and we talk for about 2 hours. I'll be taking your questions here in the chat. I will also be paying attention to these beautiful people over here in my Discord server on the other side of the screen. Thanks to It's Blunty for being so super helpful on the stream, on the Discord server. And thanks to all these beautiful people on the Discord server. These guys are my patrons. There's a link down in the video description of my Patreon page. You can help support me for a couple bucks a month. Super, super thankful to all of them. And you get access to the Discord server. That's one of the ways. And over here, Phantom FPV. Phantom FPV is in the chat. Oh, I got to say the thing about the super chats. If you want to make sure that I get your message, the way to do it is to hit the $ right here, leave a super chat, and these are them right here on the side of my screen, and I'll definitely be calling those out in just a little bit. But for now, Phantom FPV, I knew that Phantom FPV was getting ready to put out a great video showing off the Catalyst Machine Works America 9-inch. And that's why that's what you need, is you need friends who push you. That's why I put out my Catalyst Machine Works 9-inch rip. He put out his. Let's see here. Phantom FPV. Phantom FPV. He put out his. Let's see. There we go. We doing audio too? You guys can't hear the audio. There we go. Let's see. Take a little look at what he's got going on. Definitely flying more proximity than me. Lots of flips and rolls. Takes after Mr. Steel that way. This is a 9-inch. He's going hard with the proximity, baby. Now he says that we should be using the two-blade master air screw props, not the 3-blade HQ, to get a little more durability that way. I should have done that, because the main reason I quit was that I ran out of props. But now I'm kind of inspired to get some more props and try again. Looking good. I really don't want to send this back to Neil Whiteley in one piece. Flippity flops, flippy flops. Oh, missed that one. Anyway, that's over on Phantom FPV's page, and you can check that out if you want to see 5 minutes. That's the real beauty of this 9-inch, is the flight time is incredible. I mean, he's got 5 minutes of flying, and he probably didn't kill his battery. So, you can check that out. Here, I'll put that over in the... Put that in the Discord. The big difference between Phantom and me, and why he's got a lot bigger... is that Neil Whiteley sent me the America and said, hey, try it out, review it, you know. He actually said, if you like it, you can keep it. And I do like it, but I felt like it would be more ethical as a reviewer to not keep it. I mean, I do keep some things that I review, don't get me wrong, but I thought that's a pretty big, expensive quad. It's a pretty big get, and it's all the same to me to just send it back. But ultimately, Phantom actually paid for his. So if I smash Neil's Catalyst, then who cares? But if Phantom smashes his, he's out of pocket. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, gonna get some of those APC props and send it one more time. You never know. Let me get some of these super chats out of the way real quick. Eat your veg, FPV. Thanks for 449 pounds. Perfect. Something great to watch while I'm fixing my quads. Have you flown that Sharkbite quad yet? I have not. Ryan Quellet sent me a switchback with Sharkbite in it. I am going to try and clear my backlog of quads that I need to fly. I'm actually leaving town Wednesday. I am going to I'm going to go back to the playa for the first time in several years. And there's no Burning Man's canceled this year, so that's the perfect time to go back to the playa. You know how people always say, I don't know if you know this, people are always complaining that ever since Burning Man got big, it's ruined, it's not as good as it used to be. you know, so this year that it's canceled, it felt like the perfect year to go back. So I'm going to be going out there. So I'll be leaving Wednesday, and I'm trying to clear my backlog of quads that I need to fly. This is the Gep RC Smart 3.5. It's the Cadx Polar version. And I'm going to be flying it versus this, which is the Oh My God 250. I'm thinking about doing a sub 250 comparison of these two and seeing how they stack up. And also, I've got this, which is not sub 250, but it's another thing somebody sent me. This is a 3D printed frame. And people are always asking me, hey, I've got this 3D printed frame. Oh, sorry, Master Air Screw Props, not APC. My mistake. This is Cesium Salami. Thank you for the correction. That's the 9-inch props that are any good. People are always asking me, hey, I've got this 3D printed frame. Do you want to fly it? And my opinion is that above, like maybe down in the 65 millimeter tiny whoop size 3D printed frames make sense. But once you get past a certain size, the weight, the durability, and the stiffness, the resonance characteristics are no good. But he sent me a black box log from this frame, and it looked pretty good. And I was like, fine, if you send it to me, I'll fly it. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to fly it. It feels, I mean, you could flex it if you try. You're not going to be able to see on camera, but you can flex it. But you can flex carbon too, so. And black box logs don't lie. It looked pretty good. The box-in characteristic could be enhancing the stiffness. We'll see about durability. The durability, it feels pretty good. Here's the thing, though. As far as I can tell, this guy doesn't want to release the STL, and he doesn't want to advertise what he's printing it out of. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. He wants to sell the frame. And I'm like, isn't the whole point of a 3D printed frame that you can print it yourself? Why would I want to buy your 3D printed frame? I mean, like, it's not better than carbon, right? It's heavier. Maybe the resonance characteristics are just as good. Maybe the durability, but why, if I have to buy it myself, if you're not going to publish the STL, then why would I, why? Like, that's the whole point, isn't it? Anyway, that's how it seems like. It seems to me like that's what people are going to say about this frame. And of course, when I'm reviewing a frame or when I'm reviewing a product, part of me is thinking, what is the comment section going to say and how should I cover this or respond to this? But it's a very interesting 3D printed frame, and I'll be flying it today. It is heavy. It's not ridiculously heavy. The frame by itself with no hardware was about 150 grams, which is, that's heavy, but it's not like I've seen some frames that are like 200 grams, and I'm like, forget it. 150 grams is not like, forget it heavy. The thing is, he doesn't want to publish the STL. That's his business. He also doesn't want to talk about what material he's printing it out of. But I guarantee you, anybody who knows about 3D printing is going to take one look at it and like be able to make a good guess as to what the material is. So it's just the STL. And I respect that you don't want to publish the STL because you want to make money on the product. Like, I get that. And there are some products that, when 3D printed, have sort of value of their own. But in this case, carbon is probably a superior. I feel like carbon is a superior product. It's less expensive. You can make it faster. You don't have to sit there on a 3D printer and print it out. So you can make it cheaper. It's durable. It's stiff, etc. So the main advantage of a 3D printed frame is that you can print it at home and you can tweak it. And I feel like he's undercutting that, no matter how good the design is. People are guessing that it's nylon. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to be trying it out. The first 3D printed frame that I thought was worth taking the time, because the black box log did look pretty good. I don't know. Maybe he just like bugged me enough that I finally gave in. So Eat Your Veg FPV, thank you for the super chat. Any insight into the Sharkbite fire sale, asks Jeremy Sarge. Yes, the Sharkbite fire sale was Carl from... Where's that message from It's Blunty? Carl Zhao from Divimath made a statement. It's just a temporary promotion to help the FPV community transition from analog to digital, get on the deal while it lasts. It is not, according to this statement, it is not a fire sale. It's not that Fat Shark is abandoning the product. Obviously, this is what they would say if they were having a fire sale and abandoning the product. They could just be like, no, and then they do. So, I mean, but this is an official statement from the owner, the founder, whatever, of Divimath, and it's as close to gospel as we're going to get. So, according to them, that's all. Let's see here. Johnny DRC, thanks for a $10 super chat. Thanks for the help last week. My pleasure, Johnny. Glad I could help you out. When's the next generation of DJI goggles coming out? Asks 702 Battleborn. No one knows. No one knows. Only DJI knows. GMI Visuals, thanks for 449 pounds. Thanks for your help with Arduino and the C2 interface. GMI Visuals had a BL Heli S ESC that he couldn't get to flash, and he figured out how to set up an Arduino and get C2 flashing working. I'm not sure he actually ended up even fixing his problem, but he did figure out how to flash with C2, so that's exciting. Phantom FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Justin Rice, thanks for a $10 super chat. I recently received my Banggood 5-inch bind and fly. I attempted to update firmware. Goggles would download, but always got a transmission error. Goggles still bind, and I'm able to fly. macOS platform. I don't know about that, man. If you're Justin Rice, I've run into trouble updating DJI firmware through a hub. If you're on Mac OS, you could be using a hub or adapter instead of plugging directly into the Mac. I would say get like a USB-C to USB-C cable and plug directly into the Mac, and then see if that fixes it for you. Mitoda, thank you for a $10 super chat. Daily driving, DJI with Digidaptor. I rarely fly digital. I dislike the boot time and choosing aux in before flying. Should I get HDO2 now or wait for HDO3? What makes you... Do we know? I don't think we know anything about HDO3. I think you're just assuming that HDO3 is in the works. Presumably, Fat Shark has ideas about the next generation, but I think it's a valid question to ask how much better is the next analog goggle going to be and what you're waiting for. You're going to get just a little more resolution probably. If we look at Fat Shark in the past, you get a little more resolution. Maybe like OLED is a pretty good screen technology. How much better is it going to be? Fat Shark doesn't tend to make ground shaking upgrades to their products. So if you look at the difference between the HDO1 and the HDO2 and then ask yourself how much different is the HDO3 likely to be, I think you'll see that waiting for the HDO, especially because there's no rumor or anything that the HDO3 is in the works, as far as I know. If you've got the money for the HDO2, just jump on it. I'm not saying necessarily that the HDO2 is the one to get. I was actually flying my Skyzone Sky04X at the race this weekend. I've had a problem with my Orcas where the right screen just turns off in the middle of a flight. And I sent them back to Orca, and Orca sent them back to me, having repaired them with a new main board. And like the Wednesday before the race, they did it again. I don't know why. I was like, okay, well, I'm clearly not taking these to the race. So I was like, and the reason I'm not using my Fat Sharks is that the Fat Shark DVR is a little annoying. The Fat Shark DVR, if you power them up and a PAL camera is on the channel, and then without stopping and restarting the DVR, it switches to an NTSC camera just because like you switch quads, then the DVR doesn't record correctly, which is a very specific edge case. But I've run into it before, like if you're at a race and you just power up and you're spectating someone on your channel and you start the DVR, and then without restarting the DVR, they unplug and you plug in, then the DVR is ruined. And I was like, okay, it's annoying. So I went to the Sky Zone because I know the Sky Zone DVR is pretty good and had a good experience with them. Sky Zone is not perfect. There are issues with it, but yeah. Anyway, I wouldn't wait for the HDO3. There's great choices now. Orca, HDO2, Sky Zone Sky 04X, all super valid and worth considering. David Tech, thanks for a $5 super chat. I wanted to use the AOS 5.5 frame for my new build. Problem is, in Europe, it's impossible to find 5.5 props. Will I be okay to use 5.1 or 6-inch props? David Tech, I couldn't say whether 6-inch props will fit on that frame, but I'm sure if you ask Chris Rosser, he'll tell you. There's no problem with using like a 5.1 or a 5-inch prop on a slightly larger frame. In fact, there used to be a thing you would do where you would buy a 6-inch frame and put 5-inch props on it. And it gives kind of a balance between the stability of 6-inch and the nimbleness of 5-inch. And some people actually really liked it. So there's no problem with using a slightly smaller prop on that frame. It'll have a little bit different handling and weight, but not the end of the world. As far as 6-inch goes, you'd have to ask if the prop would fit. Let's see here. Ken Heron, good to see you in the chat. Sorry I wasn't able to make it to Minefield, Ken. It sounds like it was a really good time out there. A couple of the folks from my Discord were out there, and also sorry to have missed them. Why do I have 2 chargers in the background without batteries hooked up? I don't know, because I'm not charging any batteries right now? It's a weird question. Maybe I'm missing something. Alex FPV, thank you for 100 South African Rand. Do the DJI Goggles V2 still need an actual DJI drone in some situations? Blunty, I'm going to turn to you in the chat, in the Discord, because Blunty has been keeping up with all of the ins and outs of the DJI FPV firmware. I think they fixed that issue, but I'm going to confirm from him whether that bug where you can't activate, because I think that DJI released a different firmware version that makes sure that you have the option to switch to the air unit mode. But Blunty is going to confirm for me whether there are still any edge cases that he knows of where that problem pops up. Because you can never be sure, even when DJI releases a fix, whether there's an edge case. Ooh, there's a helicopter flying low outside. I don't know if you guys can hear it. They're coming for me. The black helicopters are coming for me. I have no idea why, but every so often, like, military helicopters will fly over my house. I mean, legit, like, and I don't know, like, I've tried to look if there's like an air base near me or if there's some kind of flight path near me, and I don't think there is. But every so often they fly over, so obviously there must be. Hello? People are typing in the Discord, but they haven't actually answered yet. John Goblin says the only edge cases are from old stock goggles that aren't updated to any of the current firmwares. So John Goblin, it sounds like if... Alex FPV, it sounds like if you're getting new goggles, John Goblin is saying you're good. I know Blunty's typing as well. He's typing a long answer, so we'll give him a second to finish typing that. Tommy Brickler, thanks for $5 super chat. What would cause my motors to spin up to a high RPM on a dive with 0 throttle? Most likely, Tommy, that's prop wash oscillation causing the motors to spin up due to excess degain. So too much degain or not enough filtering would be how I would read that. It's because the D term can cause kind of a feedback loop in your PID controller where the motors spin up. But insufficient filtering they all sort of interact. Insufficient filtering, excess degain, too much mechanical vibration like you didn't soft mount your flight controller. All of those things interact together to create this feedback loop which causes the motors to spin up. And it could be any one or all of the 3 that causes it. Going back to the question from Alex about the DJI Goggles V2, yes, some random pairs still won't activate, but otherwise it's mostly fine. If you get past the activation step in the V2, you should be fine. Okay, so Alex FPV, it sounds like it is mostly okay to buy the Goggles V2, and mostly the issue is fixed, but there are still a few edge cases. Ken Heron, thanks for a $20 super chat. Appreciate you, man. Hope you're doing well. Ken Heron and I keep trying to figure out a time to meet up and do a collab. It keeps not working out. I was going to do the Catalyst Machine Works America 9-inch test with him. He lives it was like a 5-hour drive to a really cool site he found, like a closed raceway. And I was just before I was going on a 2-week trip, and I just could not bring myself to drive all the way out where he was and give up that much time, especially when I found this raceway a little closer to me. But one of these days, Ken, it's going to happen. Mechanic Aaron, thank you for 50 Norwegian kroner. Multi-bind with Jumper T16, Crossfire Lite, and Tango 2. What Crossfire firmware is the safest or least buggy? Crossfire firmware has been a mess now. Mechanic Aaron, I think you should just try going to 6.09. That's the latest. You're not using the Crossfire 69, so you don't have to be on 609, but that's where I would always start with the latest and see if it works. I know they've made some improvements to Crossfire Wi-Fi and multi-bind, and I would start with 609. There are I shouldn't say there are no known issues, because 609 was released specifically to fix some issues with 607, but I would try 609. Jackalope FPV in the Discord asks, can I put Crossfire on your Lumineer build? What about a beeper and a GPS if desired? Jackalope, you totally can put Crossfire on the Lumineer build. As far as the GPS goes, it's just a question of if you have enough spare UARTs, but I think you will definitely have enough spare UARTs if you are not using DJI. And even if you are using DJI, I think there's enough spare UARTs to use GPS, Crossfire, and a DJI. A beeper, totally can. I got Tom Shu in the Discord. No, sorry, not Tom. Who said that? Somebody said I'm using... GV Pilot in the Discord said 609 is working for me on all my receivers. GV Pilot, are you using multi-bind, though? He's trying to specifically use multi-bind. Scott Crosser is talking about the AOS 5 camera mount, saying it's not wide enough for the air unit camera by over 1 millimeter. Scott, I get the same complaint about my QAV-S frame. The issue is that the DJI camera is close to 20 millimeters wide, and the standard, that's the actual DJI camera. I believe the Crossfire Nano, I'm sorry, the Nebula Nano Pro is actually a 19 millimeter camera, the same as most analog cameras are. And what we did when we designed the QAV-S is we made the camera plate 19 millimeters wide, so it would be correctly sized for a standard camera. And that means that you have to kind of squeeze the plates in a little bit for the DJI camera. But if we had made them wide enough for the DJI camera, then you would have needed like a shim, or they would have been pulling on an analog camera, and we didn't want to do that. So you have to just squeeze it in and it'll be fine. Yeah, just squeeze it. It'll be fine. It's not a big deal to squeeze it. The Nano Pro is not 14. That's the Nano Micro, isn't it? Pretty sure that Pro is 19. GMI Visual says that he sells both a 20 and a 19. Is that true? Let's check that. That's easy to check. So buy it now. Oh, look at that. Camera spacing. That's great. That's really great. Well, I can confirm that you can squeeze a DJI camera into a 19 millimeter spacing, because that's what the QAV-S does. It's a little squeezed, but it's fine. And, you know, but it looks like you can order it either way. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's really nice. It's a little I guess it's because maybe they're cutting. Are they cutting them to order? That would explain it. I mean, it just complicates inventory to have two different widths like that. But there you go. Jackalope FPV, you absolutely can put a Nebula Pro in my frame. You absolutely can. It's not that much squeezing. People are surprised that they have to squeeze it at all, and they think maybe there's a defect in the frame. I assure you it's not. Big Data Pimp, you absolutely could just set the frame at 20 millimeters and put washers in, but most people probably wouldn't think of that, is our thinking. And it's not a big deal to have to squeeze it like a 0.5 millimeter. Not a big deal. So... John Goblin, I'm gonna take issue with your. Let me show you what you said first. So John Goblin said this is Chris Rosser's new AOS 7 frame, and take a look at the direction of the fiber on the struts. And the reason I take issue with this, John, is that I don't think you can tell the direction of the actual carbon fibers by looking at the direction of the twill. This outer layer, this twill, I think is what it's called, is entirely cosmetic. It is 100% cosmetic. And you can't actually know the direction of the layup by looking at this. And I don't actually know what point you were trying to make, John Goblin. I'm just jumping on this because it's a common misconception. But the direction of the actual fibers in the layup could be anything relative. You cannot tell from looking at the outside twill. Now, I think what you're getting at, John Goblin, is what he's done here is very clever. This is very clever. Let's zoom in here. You can see this is actually two pieces kind of jigsaw puzzled together. And he's specifically done this so that he can get the fibers aligned correctly. Now, that's actually the point that John is trying to make, is to point out sort of the cleverness. Because if you've got something at an angle like this, if it was cut as a single piece, it would be impossible to cut both of them going the strong direction. So he's actually cut this as two separate pieces to get them aligned correctly. In addition, this also lets him get more pieces out of a single sheet. Because if the pieces are just a straight arm, they can be laid close together. And that brings costs down. Chibi Kaiju says that's Falcon Rad's frame. Isn't Falcon, like, collaborating with Chris Rosser on the design, though? So it's not Chris's frame, but he is participating in the production. Yeah, if you know what to look for, you can cut the carbon fiber and look at the cut edge, and you can figure out which direction the fibers go and what type of layup it is. But a lot of people have the misconception that you can tell the direction of the fibers by looking at the direction that the twill goes, and you can't. Diego says the outer layer is not cosmetic. It is carbon. You're right. It's not I guess you're right. It's not 100% cosmetic. It is carbon fiber, and it does play a role in the strength. But my point is that you could have any direction layup underneath the outer twill layer. You could have unidirectional. You could have 90 degree. You could have 45 degree. It doesn't matter. When you buy a carbon fiber sheet, the outer layer is that twill, and the inner layer is whatever it is, and you don't know. You can't tell whether the designer cut it correctly just by looking at the twill. That's my point. Anyway. Aethix says, I thought the top layer was to show you the direction of the weave. I mean, presumably there's a relationship between the weave and the twill, but you don't know what that relationship is unless you know what layup the guy is using. You can buy unidirectional fibers. You could buy, anyway, I feel like I'm repeating myself, so I'm going to quit. Kenneth Davis, thanks for a $5 super chat. What's the answer to life, the universe, and everything? Everyone knows it's 42. Aaron Bengston, thank you for a $10 super chat. I copied your Apex HD build, except for the motors. I went with the Stout V4s, and I can't get the quad to go hover. It just goes up, 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 or falls down. I'm going to guess your motor directions are the wrong... Your motors are going the wrong way? I mean, if it just flies to the moon, you could be having a problem with your PIDs, but I'm going to assume you're on default PIDs. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I'm going to check the motor directions first. That's where I would start. Tasty Shrimp says, I just had my second kid on Friday. What's your strategy for getting infants or toddlers into FPV? I have played hide and seek with a tiny whoop and a house full of children. It was pretty fun. Would you rather use a Nebula Nano or Sharkbite? Asks Pirate FPV. Thanks for a £2 super chat. That's a tough one. I feel like the range of Sharkbite still leaves enough to be desired that I would take Nebula Nano, even though the latency and image quality is not very good. Thank you, Scott Abramachik, for $4, just for answering my emails. I do answer emails. That is true. What's the best motors for a 2S Toothpick? Anthony King. Anthony, I would go with whatever Kebab says to use. Unfortunately, they're probably out of stock, but whatever Kebab says, that's what I would do. Kebab is the man when it comes to toothpicks. Big Data Pimp says the inner layers are not woven at all. They are a fiber mat laid in a different angle on each layer. That is correct, Big Data Pimp. It is correct. They are not interwoven like twill. They are laid one over the other. And when we say the layup, what I mean by that, I'm actually sure that maybe that's technically not the correct term, but when they create a carbon fiber sheet, they could do unidirectional fibers where all the fibers go the same direction. And my understanding is unidirectional is very stiff, but it's only strong in one direction. Because when you have a bunch of carbon fibers running in one direction, the fibers themselves are very strong, but the only thing holding them together is the resin, and the resin is not very strong. So they're going to be very strong against forces like this, but forces like bending forces that focus the stress on the resin are going to be, it's not going to be very strong. So what they'll do when they lay it up is you could do a layup with 90 degrees. So on one layer, the fibers will go this way. On the next layer, the fibers will go 90 degrees to it, and then vice versa. You can do one where they have them in all different directions, one where they have it 45 degrees, and it's making a different some are stronger, some are stiffer, and basically that's how it's done. And a lot of people assume that all frames are cut from 90-degree layup. And with a 90-degree layup, if you're going to cut an arm, you want it going along the direction of the layup so that lots of the fibers are going the direction of the layup. And it's true, if you had a 90-degree layup and you cut an arm at 45 degrees, that would be dumb. That would be the wrong thing to do. But number one, people assume that if you look at the twill, you can know what direction the fibers are running. And there's probably some truth to that. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that the twill layers are always 90 degrees to the sheet, and then the actual carbon fiber layers are 90 degrees to the sheet, aligned with the twill. That would make sense to me. I mean, maybe it's not true. I don't know. But what you don't know is whether the manufacturer is choosing a different layup. Like, it's not always true that you have a 90-degree layup. You could have a 90-45-0, 45-90 layup, etc. And in that case, there may not be a right or wrong orientation. So really you would have to ask what layup the manufacturer is using. Big Data Pimp says the twill is usually 45 degrees to the top and bottom inner layer. I don't actually know that. If that's true, then the people looking at the twill and saying, aha, they aligned the arms wrong, are all wrong. Jeremy Sarge says, I'm surprised that molded carbon fiber didn't take off. Jeremy, I have talked to some people who tried to market a molded carbon fiber frame. And the big difference is that the price is much higher because the volume and the time to manufacture is much higher. So to do molded carbon fiber, you need to have like a mold, and then you lay the carbon fiber on the mold, you impregnate it with resin, and then you like bake it or cure it. I don't know. People, that's a very rough understanding of basically how it works. And the problem is that the time it takes to do that compared to the time it takes to just CNC something out of sheet, it's so much slower that the price has to be much higher. The other thing is like the Diatone. I think the Diatone Exorcist was a molded carbon fiber frame. And I heard rumors that the yield on those frames was extremely low. Now you could say, well, like 1 out of every 3 that they made actually was sellable. I guess I shouldn't be bad-mouthing Diatone's manufacturing. I'm not 100% sure that it was the Diatone Exorcist that I heard that about, and I'm not 100% sure that was even correct. But I heard people talking and saying that the yield on the molded frames is lower because it can be difficult to get them at a good quality level. So basically, molded carbon fiber frames have a lot of advantages if you're doing like a high-end one-off. If you're doing, an F1 car piece where you have a lot of money and a lot of time and you need performance, or if you're doing, something for an airplane. But for a quadcopter frame that you're going to crash the crap out of and you need to save money, it's not a good choice. Jackalope FPV wants to know if he can swap out some motors on my Luminaire build. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the motors are the one thing I would upgrade first. The motors used on my Luminaire build are 2206, so they're a little small for a 5-inch, and they're a little bit lower kV. And the idea is that number one, we wanted to save money. Let's just be straight. But number two, for beginners who are building it, we thought a little smaller, little underpowered motor would be helpful. That with them not just taking their own head off the minute they go to fly. Jackalope is specifically asking about the new Bach grinder motor, TBS Grinder V3. And yeah, any 6S, any 1750 kV, 1900 kV motor will be fine. $20, sure. You like Bach grinder, you want to support him, and you like his motors, more power to you. Oh, they come in black too. Nice. Good looking motors. Kenneth Fang, thank you for 5 SGD. Is it possible to make a video indoor acro? No. Indoor acro with like a tiny whoop? I've always struggled to do indoor acro with a tiny whoop. I like to do outdoor acro. Earthling says, Playa bound. 20,000 people are expected with no facilities. Yup. If that sounds like a bad idea to you, then don't come. Going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, the beauty of going to the Playa this year, in case you missed it at the beginning of the stream, I'm going back to the Playa this year. Burning Man is canceled, which sounds like the perfect time to go back to the Playa. The beauty of going is that this year there's no tickets, so you save a little money on the ticket, and there's no facilities, So no porta potties, no generators, none of that. Just what you bring. But the good news is that if you kind of are having a bad time, and you could just leave. I mean, you could always leave, but they won't let you back in during an official year. You just say, all right, I'm done. I mean, if you spent hundreds of dollars on a ticket, you'd be less inclined to bail. But you never know. You could fly drones. It's actually not that awesome. I mean, granted, I wasn't flying drones the last time I went. But having been, I'm not sure whether it's like a great place to fly drones. Maybe that's a failure of imagination on my part. It's just a big flat desert. Like, it's not like there's a lot of features to hit. You know? Yep, no fire or ambulance. Yes, sir. That is correct. Oh, no. What will I do? What will I do? I might be somewhere where, emergency services couldn't reach me. Wow. I guess I'll probably die. I'm going to be dumb if I actually die, but... I think the problem is if I do bring drones, then the whole trip becomes a work trip. So on some level, I'm tempted to just leave the drones behind. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is this like a rave? I don't know about that. I feel like the answer to that question is not 0% like a rave. But... Yep. I mean, there's going to be there's estimated to be 20,000 people there this year. I'm sure some of them will be EMTs and medical professionals. But you just have to, take care of yourself, you know? Oh, that's true. If I take drones and make content, then it becomes a business expense. That I had not considered. Gosh, darn it. Well, there you go. What's the smallest whoop that works with the DJI V2 goggles? Asks Jackalope FPV. Jackalope, I think it's the iFlight Alpha 85. A85. John Goblin wants to know, what's your opinion on dampening grease on quads? Chris Rosser suggested that there is a type of vibration dampening grease you could use on quads. I think that it has been demonstrated to work. It's just a question of whether it's worth it to do it, the hassle. Is there an A75? Is it the A... Excuse me. Oh my God, there's an A75. Wow, I didn't, maybe I knew that, but I just forgot. There you go. I think this is the smallest, like, off-the-shelf whoop you can buy with a DJI in it. No, there's a version with a naked. Isn't there a version with a naked Vista in it? Does Beta FPV make that? Where's the naked Vista? The Gepar CP16. Let's look that up. P16 HD. What size? That looks bigger to me. What size is it? Small? That's pretty small. It looks heavier for sure. And it's not naked either. 64 grams. That's really impressive, to be honest. Beta FPV has a naked one, but I'm feeling reluctant right now to recommend Beta FPV stuff because of I don't know. I'll get out of it, but every time I talk about Beta FPV, I get a lot of complaints from people who have had failed Beta FPV products and no customer service, and I'm just not. I know that on some level, if you're not willing to accept some of that, you just can't be in this hobby at all. But it is a little frustrating. It's frustrating me right now. Here's the Beta FPV HD with this is the one with a naked Cadx Vista. It's pretty small. Is that the naked one? Yeah, I think it is. It flies okay. I just am not sure. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. The Firefly Baby. That's the analog, but there's a DJI version too. There we go. This one's coming in. What's the weight on this one? That's pretty impressive. That's pretty small. Again, not a naked Vista though. I wish this would come with a naked. Does it come with a naked Vista? I don't think it does. I wish it would come with a naked Vista. It would be even lighter with little disadvantage. Oh, that is. Oh, that is naked. Oh, this is the one. This is the one. This is really, that's really slick. That's really slick. It's not 60 grams. Wow. That's really slick. Impressive. All right, there you go. Anthony DiStefano, thanks for a $2 super chat. Who came up with the Rotor Riot name and who was the first to join? Anthony, I wasn't around back when Rotor Riot was founded. I'm going to guess that Chad Capper came up with the name. And who was the first to join? I don't know. If you are interested in picking up that Flywoo quad, for what it's worth, there's a link. It is an affiliate link in the interest of disclosure. I have not tested that quad, but if you're interested in it and you want to help support me, by all means. Am I going to review the new FPV Cycle 25mm motors? Labib Al-Hashimi. Labib, I have already reviewed them. I have. I'm going to make another video, I think, now that they're in stock, but I have already reviewed them. Here is a link to my review of those motors. I like them a lot. Here's a link to my review. General Squirrels, thanks for a $2 super chat. Any word on a new version of DJI FPV? Nope. Nope. No word. Blunty says the Flywoo Baby Quad is so heavy. But what's better, Blunty? I mean, are you going to go for an 85mm or a 9? I personally, I'm with you in a sense. Here's where I'm with you. I think the smallest quad that is worth putting a DJI like a Vista in is around 95mm. Below around 95mm, I think your disc loading gets really shitty. I haven't run the math. Maybe Ciati will run the math, or maybe Blunty will run the math. But my gut feeling is that when I fly a 95mm with a naked Vista in it, I'm like, okay. And when you're down around 85 or 75, it feels like you've just decided to get that small because you want to, but the flight characteristics are really bad. That being said, I mean, if you want the smallest thing you can get with DJI on it, here they are. Ciati, what's the smallest thing that is worth putting a DJI, like maybe a naked Vista on? And what's the disc loading? If you were to say, I want a disc loading of X, where you're basing that disc loading on like a good flying 5-inch, like, well, that's a good question. Is it Chris Rosser's prop diameter video? Where is that the one with the disc loading chart in it? Yeah. So this is a video from Chris Rosser talking about disc loading. Disc loading is the weight of the quad as a ratio to the diameter of the prop. And it is one of the main things that determines like how it feels, how a quad feels in flight. Floaty versus heavy. And what we could do is we can look at these disc loading for these various quads. For example, here's an Impulse RC Apex with an Ethics P3 prop. Here's a 533 switchback. And we can say, like, let's take the 533 switchback as a really lightweight, high performance quad. And then we start looking here at things like the Gep RC Mark IV with a Session 5, Diatone GT349. All of these are fine. And then as we get up to this yellow line, we start getting to really a lot heavier things, okay? So my gut feeling is that for like an acro or racing, I want to be somewhere between the blue and the green line, which is a disc loading of 4 to 6 grams per inch of diameter, okay? Where 4 grams per inch is like a lightweight racing, and 6 grams per inch is a heavier but still acceptable freestyle. Well, maybe this Gep RC Mark IV. Here's the Gep RC Mark IV with a Hero 9, and we're getting up closer to 10 grams per inch, which is like, okay, now it's getting kind of shitty. So then let's, I mean, it's tough to figure out the lines because they're so, we're down at like 50 grams. Like, I don't even know where to start. But, like, what's grams per inch? All right, so a 65 millimeters to inches is a 2.5 inch prop. So does that mean what I should do is what I should say a 60 grams per inch divided by 2.5 inch is 24. That isn't right. Is it the other way? Is it 2.5 divided by its diameter? 2.5 divided by 60. No, I'm doing what? How am I getting this math wrong? Quadcopter weight in grams. Prop diameter in inches. Where am I missing? I'm missing something obvious here. In doing why is my math giving me a crazy number? 2.5 inches, 60 grams. It should be 60 divided by 2.5. But that's giving me 24, which is clearly not the disc loading. When the chat catches up, they'll tell me the dumb mistake that I'm making. Abraham says, the general consensus among the few HD pilots in International Game of Whoop is that 75 millimeter is doable, 85 to 95 is preferable. That's sort of what I'm saying. Is it that? No, it's not the disc area. I mean, that's not, oh, it's the disc area. He's graphing based on diameter. Thank you. That's my mistake. So 2.5 inches divided by 2 is 1.25 squared, pi r squared times 3.14. That's a 4.9 inch squared disc area. And then we've got 60 divided by 5, so that's 12. So for a 65 millimeter prop, it would be a disc loading of 12. But we're not 65, it's 75 millimeters, so I have to do the math again. 75 millimeters to inches is 2.9. That's a 3-inch prop. So 3 divided by 2 is 1.5 squared times 3.14. That's 7. So 60 grams divided by 7 inches squared is an 8.5. So the disc loading for a 60 gram, 75 millimeter quad is around the same as the disc loading of, like, it's 8.5. 8, that's the blue line is 8. So we're about the same as like a, that's not that bad. Gep RC Mark IV HD5 with a Session 5? That's not that bad. Honestly. I thought the disc loading, so numerically the disc loading is not that bad. We're talking prop size, Ciati, aren't we? Isn't that how those numbers mean? Isn't 65, 75, 85, 95 millimeter the prop size, not the wheelbase? 1IFPV. Chris Rosser didn't come up with a gospel disc loading line. Hang on. 1IFPV, before you start taking shots, this graph is not saying what's good or bad. I'm saying what's good or bad. But these numbers are not subjective. All this is the weight of a device, of a quad, and divided by its disc area. These are immutable facts. Now, I'm looking at this and saying, I feel like a good disc loading is between such and such and such and such. But that's just my opinion. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right, Abraham. This is what happens when I try and do stuff live on a live stream. I calculated a 75 millimeter quad as having a 75 millimeter prop. That's my bad. Remy Tim, you're correct. Prop manufacturers started calling 3-inch Cinewhoop props 75 millimeter. I apologize. For the tiny whoops, the 65, 75, etc. is the wheelbase. That's my bad. It's like a 32 millimeter prop. Let's just check that. Sorry, guys. This is what happens when I try and do stuff live instead of actually thinking. What's the prop size for a 75 millimeter? Is it 40 millimeter props? Yeah, because they started calling started calling Cinewhoop props based on the prop size in millimeters. It's 40 millimeter. Okay, so let's redo the math. 40 millimeters to inches. Let's start with that. I should never do math on stream. It's a 1.5 inch prop. There you go. That didn't make sense. 1.5 inches squared times 3.14 is a 7 square. So, yeah, it's a disc loading of around 10. For a 60 millimeter, or for a 60 gram 75 millimeter, we get a disc area of 7 and a disc loading around 10, which is worse than I calculated. Okay. Do you multiply by 4 because of the to get the disc area? Do you multiply by the number of props? When the question is, what did Chris Rosser do when he made this chart? Because that's what I'm comparing to. That's the reference. Did Chris Rosser then multiply by 4 because these are assumed to be quadcopters, or is he calculating the disc loading just based on a single prop? Yes, I squared the radius, pi r squared. Anyway, thank you for the clarification there on the wheelbase question. Okay. Thank you, Penguins Can Fly, for a €5 super chat. I saw the reviews, but if you wouldn't already have an FPV backpack and if it wasn't a business expense, would you take the Torval or the iFlight? The price of them is almost the same. So the question of, whether it was a business expense, if you're looking at the Torval or the iFlight, I am leaning toward the iFlight because of the things I talked about in the review. I just need to know that the durability is going to hold up. That's the bottom line. And we won't know. We won't know until 6 months from now when it either falls apart or stays together. Let's do the math for one of the 5-inch quads and see if it matches. Good point. So, we just see where it crosses the line. like a 5-inch quad at, let's say, 700 grams. 5 inches is a 2.5-inch prop diameter. Squared times 3.14 is 19. And then let's take 700 divided by 19 gives us 36. Divided by 4 is 9. So yeah, Chris Rosser is dividing by 4. This is what it seems like to me. All right. Good to know. So what have we learned? We've learned I shouldn't try to do math on live stream because I just do things off the cuff and I make dumb mistakes. And there you go. I think 65, 75 is too small for carrying a DJI. That 85, 95 is the smallest you want to go. And I think the ideal lightweight, I mean, it's not tiny whoop sized, but 3.5 is currently, if you're trying to get under 250 grams, that's where I think it's the smart place to be. So. Rob Axelson asks, any comments or speculation on why Sharkbite's being sold for $100? Carl from Divimath said that it was just a promotion. That's it. That's what he said. Is the Newbie drone Infiniti AIO worth the price? Campbell FPV, very good question. The Newbie drone Infiniti AIO, I have one. I need to build it into a quad, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. This is a, oh my God. Wow. Ow, wow. It's gotten so much more expensive. Wow. Oh, wow. I'm speechless. I mean, is it worth the price? The answer has to be no. I take that with a grain of salt. Please don't. Hang on. My first thought is that it's ridiculous. Like, but here's the thing. Why is it that price? Because everything is going to be more expensive in the next 6 months. Everything's going up in price. We are just about to do another order of my JBF7 flight controller. The manufacturer came back to us and said that our cost has doubled. Our cost has doubled. And that is because the cost of the components has gone up. This is happening all around the electronics industry. Everything that has silicon electronics in it is going up. Okay? That's a fact. And what we're seeing is that the price of stuff is slowly going up based on when the manufacturer runs out of parts. So let's say that your diatone, I'm just making this up. This is not specific. I'm just picking diatone out of a hat. Let's say your diatone, and a year ago you bought 10,000 F4 processors. Okay? And now you're making flight controllers. Right? Well, you're selling those flight controllers for whatever, $50, $60, right? Eventually you're going to run out and you're going to have to order more. And now the F4 processors are twice as much as they were, or 3 times as much, or 5 times as much. And I'm not making those numbers up. Those are real numbers, depending on what you're buying and how much you're buying. At that point, the price of your product is going to go up. And so what you're seeing is, if there are products out there that the price has not gone up in the last 6 months, it is because the manufacturer has not run out of chips yet to make them. They just haven't run out yet. And as soon as they run out, the price goes up. Now, I'm not saying 100% that's why this happened. But I am saying that I just 2 weeks ago had a conversation with Race Day Quads, and Race Day Quads said, look, the manufacturer came back to us and our cost is going to double. And I'm not going to get any more specific than that, because I don't want to, I feel like I want to give you guys a little bit of insight into what's happening behind the scenes, but I don't want to like betray confidence and release private competitive information. But everybody is going through this. Months ago, the price of Emax, Bind and Flies, Tiny Hawk, etc. Emax released a new price sheet. Everything went up by 15 or 20%. It's the same thing. And when you see that the price of my flight, how much is the JBF7 today? How much is, I'm going to show you because I know the answer. Holy shit! What? Why is the JBF7 $80? It used to be $45. Yep. 100% the reason is that the price that we're paying the manufacturer to make it went up. 100%. That's the reason. We're not, the margin is the same. In fact, I think that probably we're making less money. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to get into specifics. That's 100% driven by the cost of the parts that go into it. The F7 chip, the voltage regulator, the gyro chip, all of it got more expensive. And we're basic. Here's the thing. I'm going to be straight with you. It was either raise the price or stop making it. And I said, well, I don't want to stop making it. So like Airsure says, I got the JBF7 from Throttle Up USA. It was still $45. Yep. That's because Throttle Up USA bought them when they were $45. The next batch is going to be more expensive. And so when you look at this Beast F7, it's $80, it's $90, but it's also sold out. What do you want to bet when it comes back in stock? It's going to be $150. It's going to be $180. I don't know what it's going to be. When you look at this Newbie drone Infiniti, it's $170. Well, I would really hesitate to buy an all-in-one for $170 unless it comes with a dang lifetime warranty. But in 6 months or a year, you may not freak out. I mean, today, if you were to pay $100 for a flight controller and an ESC, you'd be like, oh, that's a little high, but okay. But I'm not saying $170. That still feels pretty high to me. They're demanding a premium for their all-in-one, and the big question is, will it blow up? Have you been running? If you've been running the Newbie drone Infiniti, I'd be interested to get your feedback on whether it's solid or not. I'd be interested. But for now, I don't want you to look at this and go, Newbie drone is trying to gouge us and rip us off. I honestly and sincerely believe that this simply reflects the increase in their cost to manufacture it, which they're faced with the decision of either just discontinue all our products and go out of business or try to sell them at a higher cost. Anyway, there you go. Eric Toft says, I haven't blown mine up yet. Yeah. Wodemarak says, if you consider that Sony and Microsoft are saying it's going to be another 12 to 18 months before their part prices start falling again, I can see FPV parts being even longer than that. Campbell FPV says my Newbie drone Infiniti stack just died. David Gregorian wants to know, can a VTX have reduced range if it was powered on without an antenna? Yes, 100%. That is the number one way that you will damage your VTX, and it will show up as having reduced range. Ciati, when you say Rugi is having a ton of them blowing up, do you mean the Beast or do you mean the Alpha? I think you mean the Beast. Chomper FPV says, AIOs have come a long way, but still have a long way to go as far as reliability and durability. I like the Redux Air ESC. On their page, on their website, they say that they decided that an ESC can either be small, have good performance, or have durability. It's small, size, amp rating, and durability. Those are the three things you can have. And you can only have 2 of them from an ESC. Pick 2. And what they did is the Redux Air decided to have a big ESC with good durability and performance. Okay? They gave up size. But when you look at an all-in-one stack, you have to compromise on size because you're trying to fit components on a board of a specific size. So, Audio Geek FPV is asking if you can do Betaflight PID profile selection with a switch. It is not possible. You can switch PID profiles with stick commands, but not with a switch. Yeah, so a great use, in my opinion, a great use for an all-in-one flight controller with an ESC and flight controller on board, like a long-range 4-inch cruiser. That's wonderful use for it. But a hard freestyle or racing rig, I'm extremely skeptical. If you have small motors and you oversize the crap out of the ESC, then it can be good. But for hard crashing freestyle and racing, I don't see it. Mark wants to know, is fast S-Bus worth running on DJI? What are the negatives? Mark, there are no negatives. It reduces the latency. You should just use fast S-Bus. There's no downside. All Betaflight flight controllers support it. The only downside would be if you had an old flight controller that didn't support it. Other than that, there's no downside, and reduced latency is an upside. M2K FPV wants to know, how long before DJI and Cadx release canvas mode? Unknown. Cadx said they were working on canvas mode. That's all we know. I mean, it's good that they said it. Hopefully it's true. We don't know when it's going to come, and it may never come. It may have just been a thing that was said to distract from the BS around them claiming that they were going to lock out RunCam, which they recanted. So Cadx said we're going to release a firmware update that locks out the RunCam MIPI, and there was a lot of negative feedback over that. Then DJI said that's not true, no one will do that, and Cadx said yes, we've changed our mind. Oh, and by the way, we're working on canvas mode. So on some level, I mean, I'm not saying that they're just lying. I don't think that they're lying. I think that they're working on it, but they said that when they were at a point under pressure, and there certainly was an advantage to put some positive spin out there. And who knows when it'll actually happen. I hope soon. We don't know, though. Will I switch to Sharkbite if the new HD0 cams are Nebula Nano-like in quality? M2K FPV, there are 3 things that Sharkbite needs to do before I will consider it. Let's not talk about whether Sharkbite is a viable competitor to DJI, because there's 2 things going on here. Number one, the performance of DJI is going to be difficult for anyone without just millions of dollars to put into it. It's going to be difficult to reach their performance. But more fundamentally, the way that DJI achieves its performance is very different. DJI achieves its performance with a compression artifact degradation in image quality, and with a change in latency. And so the kind of person who is going to want to fly Sharkbite may actually not even feel like DJI is viable for them. The price of DJI is higher, depending on how you slice it. And you're in the DJI ecosystem, which some people don't like. So let's just set aside DJI versus Sharkbite. Let's not even say that DJI is better, because maybe someday Sharkbite will be as good. Let's just say that DJI is different, and we'll set it aside. Is it worth switching to Sharkbite from analog? And for a lot of people today, the answer is not quite yet. One of the reasons is price. Sharkbite is absolutely more expensive than analog. Maybe the most expensive analog you can think of would be on par with Sharkbite, but analog can be extremely inexpensive. The second thing Sharkbite needs to get is range. And the biggest reason that I think Sharkbite doesn't compete with analog on range is the output power. Right now, Sharkbite is 200 milliwatts for the racing VTX, 500 milliwatts for the full-size VTX, but I don't actually even think I'm not sure where it's in stock. Analog goes up to 1 watt or more. If Sharkbite had a 1 watt VTX, which there are rumors that they're working on that, and it seems obvious that they would know that more output power is better, right? If Sharkbite had a 1 watt VTX and we could really compare the range of Sharkbite to that of analog, the effective usable range at more comparable output power, that would be one of the things I would want to see before I would start saying Sharkbite's really a viable alternative to analog for general use. It's not happening today. The third thing is, so we have price, we have range. Image quality, Sharkbite wins. No question in my mind. Sharkbite wins for image quality, hands down. Okay, so we'll give it the W there. The third thing is durability. The Sharkbite video transmitters that I've seen, I mean, I'm not going to go down the Dji Fpv route and say, Dji Fpv was like, everybody I know who tried to fly Sharkbite switched. They suck. Durability was crap. They all just exploded. You breathed on them funny. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but Dji Fpv is very down on the durability of the units. So I'll say this. It's not on the level of analog VTXs, which can be just completely bulletproof unless you're dumb and you power them up with the antenna removed. So these are the things that Sharkbite needs to do in order to be something that I would say is a viable alternative to analog. And that's why Sharkbite just went on sale for $100 for the receiver. But they got to get their video transmitters for racing. For racing right now, you could argue that Sharkbite is viable, because for racing, you only need 25 milliwatts anyway. The durability maybe isn't quite there. Debatable. But for racing, they're pretty close. Ciotti and King of Jesters dislike the fact that Sharkbite forces you to have a 16:9 image. Some people would prefer 4:3. I also prefer 4:3. I'm not sure that it would be a 100% deal breaker, though. Will TBS eventually make a Sharkbite compatible VTX? Couldn't say. Divimath is on record that they want to sell the chips to third parties. So if there was a company that was going to make a third party Sharkbite VTX, I could see TBS doing it. They have the manufacturing capability and the R&D capability to do a good job at it. Right now, it doesn't seem like there would be a lot of motivation for them to do that, though. Will Lipos go up in price soon? Asks Airsure. Airsure, I couldn't say. When I talk about silicon prices going up, I am talking about observations of what has happened from people who are in manufacturing and so forth. I haven't heard any talk about lipos going up in price, and the reason that silicon is going up in price seems to be, well, it's many factors, but basically there's a bottleneck in manufacturing and distribution. Whereas with lipos, I haven't heard about any such bottlenecks. So, if I had to bet right now whether lipo prices were going to go up, I would say that it doesn't seem like they have and doesn't seem like they will. But obviously, I'm not in a position to really predict, and I could be wrong. Lecky in the Discord points out that Diatone has got lower prices. I've also noticed this. Diatone has their basic line, and their flight controllers are still shockingly good prices. And I don't know how they're doing it. Okay? I've noticed this. And this is new. The basic line started like at the end of, like, I'm not sure whether it was Q3 or Q4 of 2020. It started sometime in 2020, though. I'm pretty sure it didn't exist before that. That's my impression. And I don't know how they're still selling like the price of the individual components. My only guess is that they just bought a shitload of components at a good price. I don't know. Like, the price of this F7, you know, it's like $8 or $10 for the F7. People who actually have the price list in front of them, please correct me if you like. I don't know, but it's not. It's like this. The parts on this board have to be. I don't know. I mean, the parts on this board are probably less than $25. Maybe $20. At that point, that's actually, like, maybe they're just cutting, but that they have to have dealer margin in there too. That's what I don't understand. It's not just Diatone.us that sells these. So they have to have a dealer margin as well as their own margin. I don't know. Maybe they're just cutting out the margin and trying to make it up on volume. I don't know. The Diatone prices are ridiculously low, though. Some Athix says, yeah, the reliability is questionable. I think Diatone's high-end flight controllers and ESCs have been pretty good. But the basic one, I've heard some people maybe not having such good results with them. But the prices are right, that's for sure. Anyway, let's see. Got about a half hour left in the live stream. Haven't seen a lot of super chats coming in. Haven't seen a lot of questions coming in. Got one set of questions from a spammer. We're not going to answer that. Snoopy FPV says, I changed from tracer receiver to 69, and I have black, thin, short horizontal stripes from 20% throttle. What could be the problem? That's electrical noise. There's electrical noise. Did you use the little metal shield? That's going to be one thing. But that's that. I mean, it's electrical interference. It has... because it's throttle related, you know that it's electrical interference coming from the ESCs. I assume you're powering it off a VBAT, which is what you're supposed to do. You could try powering it off a regulator. Mooney says, I'm having issues with my XM Plus where I'm too close to the receiver and I fail safe. There is no issue there. I'm surprised, Mooney. I mean, there's no solution to that issue, Mooney. I'm surprised that it seems to you like the issue is firmware related. I've always seen this issue with XM Pluses when they're within maybe 2 or 3 feet of each other, the controller and the receiver, then you fail safe. I've never noticed it to be firmware related though. There isn't a fix to it though, as far as I know. Unfortunately, Mooney, there isn't a fix to it. Thank you, Mark, for a $5 super chat. Just saying thanks. Say Yay points out that one fix for the 69 lines may be powering the camera from the 69, not from the flight controller. That could work. That could, if you're getting video noise, that certainly could help. The 5-volt regulator on the 69 is surely filtered. Gregory Hurst, the TBS 69 comes with a little metal piece that's designed to help give some shielding from electrical noise. It can make a difference. Dimethyltryptamine says, can we expect a JB ESC anytime soon? What would be your most wanted features in it? No, dimethyltryptamine. When I made the JBF7, I declined to make a JB ESC. They asked, do you want to make a JB ESC? I was like, what do you mean? Well, just slap my name on an ESC? No. What would be my most wanted features? I would want it to be super durable and not blow up. There's no features that an ESC supports that because BLHeli32 is sort of the state of the art for ESC firmware today, unless you're doing very big, like Cinelifter beast class stuff, in which case the APD ESCs are the best design. So what would I want from a JB ESC? I would want it to be just absolutely bulletproof. At which point, I would just go say, hey, APD, make me an ESC. And they would. Well, who cares? Just buy an APD ESC. I don't need my name on it. And to take, 6% or whatever my the royalty for putting my name on it would be. I don't care. Just buy a good ESC. I don't have to put I'm not contributing anything at that point. I'm just putting my name on it and taking a cut, and I'm not interested in that. Yeah, Siati says, just have Acon make it. Well, Acon already makes an ESC. I mean, with a flight controller, I had things I wanted from it. So I put my name on it as a way of getting the things I wanted out of it. But with an ESC, there's nothing I want from an ESC that I can't just get a Redux Air or an Acon or an APD or an iFlight. So there's no reason to put my name on it. Or a FetTech. So, B Stern, thank you for a $7 Canadian super chat. I ordered a dead cat frame for my Chimera 4. Will I need to change the stock tune? I'll tell you this. The change in geometry will somewhat change the tune. I'm going to guess that you won't notice a difference. And if there is a custom tune needed, iFlight has a Google Drive. I just searched for iFlight Google Drive. Here's a link to their Google Drive. They have CLI dumps for all their... Here's Betaflight factory dumps. It's the Chimera. It's the Chimera 4. And do you notice they don't... Let's see, Betaflight 424. Okay, here we go. It does not look like they have a separate CLI dump for the dead cat versus the X frame. So that tells me that they ship it with the same PIDs. Now, if you are really concerned with just the best possible PIDs, you may need to tweak it, but yeah. For now, it seems like it's not probably you can run the same PIDs. Sean Cross, thanks for a $5 super chat, just saying thanks for all you do. Callie FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. I have the Cobra X goggles, and I can't decide if I go with the O4Xs or jump to digital. Money isn't a factor. What's your opinion? DJI or O4X? Callie, if money is no factor, and if you are not super concerned about latency, like if you're a hardcore racer, stick with analog, in my opinion. If you are super concerned with latency, stick with analog. Like Mr. Steele levels of concern. But for the majority of people I know who have switched to DJI have really loved the image quality, the range, the penetration, and have been more than happy to accept the other limitations of the system and cannot imagine going back to analog. That's not just my opinion. I still am about 50-50 analog or DJI. But if I was to just, quit being a YouTuber and just fly personally, I would fly 100% DJI. Just the image quality, the range, the penetration, and the overall experience is amazing. And that's not what I was going to say is that's not just my opinion, but when DJI first came out, I was hesitant to say that things like that because who knows? Everybody has different opinions, but it's been 2 years now. Well, has it been 2 years? It's pretty close to 2 years, if not 2 years. It's coming up on it. And I've seen so many people switch from analog to DJI and I've seen very, very few people switch back. Not zero, but very few people. And people are like, oh, it's just YouTubers. It's not, I assure you. I assure you, it's just normal people. And they're all really excited about it. Phantom FPV in the chat. Phantom FPV, one of the biggest analog proponents. And the day he flew DJI, he was like, oh, crap. I gotta switch. He was like, how can I sell my HDOs? He did not want to switch. So, I mean, it's very compelling experience. If price is no object, and if you're not a hardcore racer, that's the bottom line. And that's true for a huge majority of people, not just YouTubers. Anyway. MixWiz in the Discord asks, I had an issue with a new fixed wing build. Oh, by the way, I have a couple more super chats to get. I didn't miss them. So don't freak out, Triangle Psycho. Trial Psycho. I had an issue with a new fixed wing build that the Unified Pro 32 HV was migrating between two channels, R2 and R4. I had it set to R2. It had good video. While I was doing pre-flight checks, the video slided and faded out to black and appeared on R4. That's gotta be, I mean, that's just a bad VTX, MixWiz. It just shouldn't do that. So it's a bad VTX. I would take it up with TBS. Trial Psycho, thank you for a €5 super chat. I built a 75mm DJI Whoop with 36 grams and 85mm with 52 grams. They fly great, but it needs some work to get there. Yeah. 75mm DJI Whoop with 36 grams. That's impressive. If you can get a DJI Whoop down to 36 grams, then 75mm is viable. But I think a lot of people aren't going to be able to get it down that far. Tom Shu in the Discord is trying to figure out what control link to go with. Blunty is definitely a fan of Express LRS. Yeah, yep. I do have a video comparing them. That's true. Express LRS is high performance, inexpensive, has a little bit of a learning curve to compile and flash the modules and receivers. I'll tell you, the number one thing about Express LRS today that would keep me from adopting it full-time, I mean, if I weren't a YouTuber. As a YouTuber, I try and keep my hand in a lot of different pots. Not all the pots. People out there flying KISS or Emu Flight are like, why don't you fly us more? Okay, some things more than others. It's because I'm a bad person. No. I try to keep my hand in different pots, though. The main thing that annoys me today about Express LRS is that the firmware management, like, There's so many different receivers out there and so many different modules. So then when you compile the firmware for your receiver and your module, keeping track of all the different firmwares you have compiled for all your different receivers and modules, and then flashing them. And if you flash it wrong, then you don't entirely brick the receiver or the module, but recovering it can be a pain. So I've got a folder on my OneDrive with all the firmwares in it, but keeping track of which version of the firmware is it, what options was it compiled for, did I change the options between the last time I compiled and now? So basically, every time I want to flash a receiver, I end up recompiling the firmware from scratch because I'm not sure that I've got the options all right, and I'm not sure that it's just a little bit of a hassle. Whereas with Ghost, Tracer, and Crossfire, there are so few receivers and they're all built to the same target. And so they can just store the firmware on the module, and flashing is just a matter of boop, go. And it just, you never flash the wrong firmware. The options are always correct. Keeping up with the firmwares on ExpressLRS is a bit of a hassle, which is not a deal breaker. I don't want the fact that I'm focusing on the one thing that annoys me to make people think, oh, I'm down on it. I'm a huge fan of ExpressLRS, and like the performance, the price, the open source ethos are all big. They're very appealing, but that is the one thing that bugs me about it. It would be super cool if there were, I don't know, it'd be super cool if there were a way to fix that, but I don't know what it would be. Like, for example, General Chad says he clearly has little ExpressLRS experience. Just use the configurator. It isn't a real complaint. Hey, General Chad, are you for real? Yeah, I've used the configurator, General Chad. Yeah. You mean this one? Well, it's less compelling if it's starting. You mean this one, General Chad? This configurator? Yeah, this one? And when I go to device target, oh, whoops. And when I go to device target, okay. Now, look at all these targets. Look at them all. Okay, I'm about to flash. Okay, let's see. I've got the Happy Model EP2400RX via Wi-Fi. Okay, that's the one I'm going to flash. Yep. Okay, it's release 101. And got my binding phrase. Let's see. Now, am I using lock on first connection or not? Okay, I think I use lock on first connection, hybrid switch state, enabled summergy, and the auto Wi-Fi on interval. Okay, here we go. We're going to build it. Great. Okay, we're going to build it. Easy peasy. Yeah, I know I'm not on the latest configurator. Does this change in the latest configurator? Okay, so then when it's done, hang on. When it's done compiling, that wasn't so hard. Yeah, you're right, that wasn't so hard. When it's done compiling, now I have this folder. How do you solve this problem? I have this folder. Okay, great. ELRS firmware. Now, V101 Happy Model EP2400RX via Wi-Fi.bin. So now I have to manage all these files. I have to manage these files. And in this case, I've only got 2 files. But just managing, if it was just named firmware.bin, keeping track of all the files, and if I had beta FPV, it's just keeping track of all the files is a little bit of a pain. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's a little bit of a pain. Totally legit. And then when I come back later, making sure I'm flashing the most up-to-date one and the wrong one. Yeah. That's all. Flashing through pass-through is fine, but it doesn't work in the field. If I show up at the field and I've got a receiver that I forgot to update, I need to flash in the field via Wi-Fi. So like, it would be super cool. It would be super cool if I could do a batch build, I don't know if this is the best solution to this. It would be great if I could just hit go and come back 2 hours later or whatever, and on my hard drive, there is a folder containing a descriptively named bin file for every single one of the targets. It would use up a lot of hard drive space. Maybe it wouldn't be worth it. And then I could take that whole thing and put it on my cell phone SD card and be ready to flash and know that all of the files are compiled with the same option and the same firmware versions. See what I'm getting? See what I'm getting at? Well, if Wi-Fi UART or pass-through doesn't change the binary, oh, that just changes when you hit build and flash. Interesting. So I didn't know that. Venleave says Betaflight pass-through is easier. That's true. Betaflight pass-through is easier. Number one, pass-through doesn't reliably work in all cases. And number two, pass-through doesn't work in the field. I like to use the Wi-Fi flash so that I can flash in the field if I need to. Have they changed what it names the file? That would be good as well. In 1.0, did they update how it names the file? I'm trying to figure out. Brandon Bean says you need to update. Let's see. New configurator does things differently. Oh, that's exciting. Let's find out. That's the beauty of the open source project. It's moving super fast. Let's see. ALRS configurator setup 104. Oh, B Muska 64 says they've started naming it by date and module. That's amazing. It's amazing. Let's install it. Let's see what's up. Yeah. Jumpstart FPV, I agree. I'm personally more of a fan of the Wi-Fi flash than the pass-through. But pass-through is right for some situations. Let's take a look. We'll go ahead and get that installed, and we'll see how it works. Thank you, Dave Pencilguin, for $5 super chat, for teaching me about carbon fiber. I mean, I'm just repeating what smarter people than me have said about carbon fiber. Rabad, thank you for a $10 super chat. I have a DJI FPV drone and a Mavic 2 with goggles racing edition and have not run in acro mode ever. I'd like something tiny for in-home winter use. Cost is not an issue. What tiny and quiet FPV drone? If you want a tiny DJI drone for indoor use, I gotta say there's nothing amazing that you can get out of the box, honestly. Because the 85 and the 95, even the 75, they're just a little heavy and fast for indoor, especially if you're inexperienced. I guess the iFlight Alpha A85, A75, the Beta FPV one I showed earlier with Naked Vista is interesting, but I find it hard to recommend Beta FPV these days based on their build quality and reputation. Based on what's really done it for me is the stories I'm hearing from people who go to Beta FPV and don't get help after it dies. Beta FPV products have always been hit or miss in terms of their reliability, which I'm willing to tolerate if a vendor is at least generous with giving out replacements. But I've heard too many stories lately of Beta FPV giving people the run around. I don't know if it's a fact. I just feel like it's reached a threshold where I'm like, oh, I don't feel great about it. It's just what I hear. Let's see here. Oh man, we got a bunch of super chats that have come in. I'll have to make sure I get them before the end of the stream. But first, let's see. Let's see what's different. Let's see. Device category. We're going to pick a Happy Model 2.4 gigahertz, the device. It's nice that they've categorized these. That makes it a little easier to pick the one you want. So we've got a receiver, flashing method, Wi-Fi. Apparently that doesn't matter. Here's our device options. Okay, we'll leave that on the defaults and we'll build. And let's see, let's let that finish, but let's see what we end up with. Is it gonna name the firmware in a helpful way? And what we end up with, oh, that's pretty nice. Happy Model EP2400RX101.bin. That's pretty nice. That's a big improvement. It still is. I mean, it's a consequence of the wide variety of hardware. There's no way around it. It still is disappointing that you have to keep all the separate bin files for each of the receivers you've got. But probably people aren't going to have a huge amount of different receivers. That's really nice. Appreciate you guys telling me about that. It is pretty consistent that whenever there's something I complain about ExpressLRS, very, very quickly the ExpressLRS devs fix it. I complained about the aux channels only being 2 or 3 position, and boom, they fixed it like in a week. So it is very easy to be behind the curve with them, and that's a really good thing. All right, I got to get the rest of these super chats out of the way before we finish up at 3 p.m. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming at 3 p.m. or later if I go long because of super chats. Aaron Ciotti will start posting the link to his live stream this afternoon. Thank you, Glitch Unicorn, for a $5 super chat. Your tutorial on how to flash your ExpressLRS, RX, and TX is so helpful. Thank you. I'm glad it could help. There is a learning curve with ExpressLRS, but one of my goals, I love it, because anytime there's a learning curve, there's an opportunity to release educational content, and that's what I try to do. Your Majesty, thanks for a $5 super chat. Shout out to my mom, who is cancer-free for 1 year, 3 months. Thanks to this hobby and yourself for helping me through the last 2.5 years. Fingers crossed, Your Majesty. Enjoy and cherish the time that you have with your parents, everybody. And glad your mom's doing well. Thank you, Dave Pencilgwin. We got you for $5. Arbad. Thank you for a $10 super chat. Just to recap, Arbad, I would look at the iFlight Alpha A85 or A75. It's not spectacular for indoor, but it's with DJI on board, it's some of the best you're going to get. Maybe the Gep RC P16. Dingboy VR, thanks for $5 Canadian. In your opinion, what's the best under 250 analog quad that won't break the bank and is not a micro? Dingboy, my personal take is that for sub 250, 3.5-inch props are the place to be. I personally am really enjoying the Gep RC Smart 3.5 right now. For outdoor freestyle under 250 grams, I thought it was really good. You can get 4-inch and 5-inch under 250, but I feel like you have to give up a lot to do it. I will say this, Aaron Ciotti's opinion is that 3 inches is better because you get a heavier disc loading that makes it fly a little more like a bigger quad. Ciotti, what's a good 3-inch off the shelf? He'll post in the chat. I would point you towards the Gep RC Smart 3.5 right now. Master RC Student, thank you for a $5 super chat. New Hobbywing F7 flight controller, poor documentation. Which pad to use for smart port on RXSR? Master RC, I hate to tell you this. Oh no, it's an F7. For an F7, use any UART TX pad. Doesn't matter. It's an F7. That's why they don't document it. Just pick any unused UART and use the TX pad. Kevin Turner, thanks for a $20 super chat. Very much appreciate your generosity, Kevin. Good seeing you at the race this weekend. Sean Cross, thank you for a $5 super chat. Thanks for all you do. It's helped me tremendously in this hobby. Ciotti changed his tune. He says, I don't know any bind and fly 3 inches, to be honest. I'm in love with 3.5 inch at 380 grams all up weight at the moment. He wants to do a 3.5 at 380 grams. That's a lot heavier than 250. Skyrot likes the Gep RC Smart 3.5 or the Babyhawk 2 HD 3.5. Both very good choices. Build a tiny trainer. Excellent point. Thomas Shoes World, good point. Sub 250, 3-inch tiny trainer, very, very good. All right, guys, it is 3 p.m. Thank you so much to everybody who came out for the chat. Thanks to everybody who left a super chat. I appreciate you guys pointing out that some of the complaints I had with ExpressLRS have been fixed in the 1.0 configurator. It is very hard to keep up with the fast-moving developments, and there's never a better way to learn about something than to make a statement about it on the internet, and then people will just come out of the woodwork to tell you you're wrong. So very much appreciate that. 280 grams, Ciati says, not 380. Oh, that's more like it. We're going to wrap up here. I'll see you tomorrow, Monday, for the live stream at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 6 p.m. for the news, and throughout the week, as usual. Happy flying, everybody. Have a great stream, Ciati. Bye, everybody.